What's up, Vetters? Patrick here with Vetted. Today we're talking about this.
When you hear that ODNI has started an initiative to get to the bottom of things and a very broad kind of objectives of finding out the truth about UFOs, gather it all up and doing something with it, are you encouraged? That sounds like, I know how we reacted. Great, good, let's get to it.
But did we? So we acted that way, but was that what we were thinking?
Well, I had learned from others who had gone that people who went to Liberty Crossing and brought their phone with them came out of their meeting and found that their phone had been hacked. There is no organized help for UAP whistleblowers, whether that be from Congress or from private initiatives. We are quite frankly being picked off to be either exploited for financial or technical gain, or to be removed from being agents of influence for the cause of disclosure. Maybe next time when we're talking, we can talk about some of the people who I found out were lying by coordinating my report.
Who was lying? Say their names, or don't.
I don't want to say that here.
Okay.
I don't know how people are out there living a life, especially a life, where they support a family after being a whistleblower. The UAP whistleblower program by ODNI was never offered to me. I was never briefed on it.
The other thing that was told to me was that Matthew Brown admitted to completely making up and fabricating that he saw an Immaculate Constellation document, and that he admitted to me that Matthew Brown made that up. He came up with the name. And the third big lie that was told to me: counter-espionage and treason.
We are done taking punches and not punching back.
Name redacted.
Is responsible.
Has been responsible for a lot of what you're talking about current day.
Current day as it relates to the UAP problem, he is a nexus point for legacy security. He's part of the dirty tricks department.
Are you doing this for personal gain? Tell me.
No.
Why?
Because this is our home. And if we do not defend it, who will?
We live here.
Exactly.
Planet Earth or America?
America. I'm not sure Earth is our home anymore. And then the result is an ecosystem flooded with disinformation and psychological operations and targeted attacks against whistleblowers and their allies.
How do you know?
So I cannot reveal everything about this.
All right, Vetters, please hit that like button. That really helps out the videos. And of course, if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. All right, Vetters, so what's today's video about? Well, kind of got a little preview there at the beginning, an extended preview, something I normally don't do, but I had the time and I've been thinking about this video for a few days and I wanted to release it, with some thought behind it, because it represents a lot, to be honest with you, in this UFO community. Whistleblowers, disclosure, some of the thoughts around just how people think this should all be supported. There's a lot to cover in today's video, and it's specifically about Matthew Brown, who was a whistleblower that came out about the Immaculate Constellation documents. He recorded a interview on the Weaponized podcast with Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp last year, and he is back for a new interview. So without further ado, let's jump in.
I don't know how people are out there living a life, especially a life, where they support a family after being a whistleblower, because in my experience, this is the very opposite of lucrative. I'm just to talk money. I'm very grateful for all the support I get, but it amounts to less than $1,000 a month. that's not a career. That's not I became a whistleblower and made it big. And, Matt Brown is set. No, it's quite the opposite. There is, it's my experience, no money in ufology.
So this is an interesting comment here from Matthew Brown. And look, let me just say that I have compassion for him and his situation with his family, because he goes on to talk about his wife, losing his job. His wife has some medical issues and they don't exactly have insurance now. And there's just a lot here. And I'm a human being. Okay. I'm going to have compassion for somebody who, explains that their situation is tough, right? We can then debate what situation got him into that place, but regardless, he seems to be in a difficult position, and I have compassion for that. And it's a very difficult thing because at the same time, this channel is called Vetted, and we have to look at people's claims when they come out about UFOs and this sort of thing, right? So I just want to be clear that I have complete compassion for Matthew Brown's situation, his personal situation, and that's not what I'm going to get into here, nor will it be anything that I critique, because there is this movement to have whistleblowers come out. You'll be protected. It's all part of the movement, disclosure movement. But there's so many people that come out with one little part of the story. I guess I'm not exactly sure what they're expecting to be set for life with that decision, or the community is going to be able to support them. First of all, the UFO community is very niche. There's not a lot of people to support. There's just no way to support all these people financially with every little thing that comes out, right? Nobody's come out with a UFO or an alien. It becomes very difficult. I guess I just don't know what people are expecting when they come out, financially, right? And I get what he's saying. But again, it brings into question, what's a real whistleblower? And are there levels to a whistleblower? I mean, you could say, oh, there's pro basketball players. Yeah, but they don't all start and win championships, right? There's levels. Are you a bench player? You know what I mean? Are you on the practice team? I think there's levels to whistleblower. And initially whistleblower meant you're bringing out the gun, you're coming in, it's a big deal. But it's since lost its effectiveness because there's been so many people labeled as whistleblower. And when I use the label whistleblower, I'm using what the community has deemed whistleblower. It doesn't necessarily mean I believe they're a whistleblower. It just means that's what they're called and that's how they're labeled, right? So I think it just brings into question who the community should be calling whistleblowers. And at what point should you give up your career to bring out information if it's not the smoking gun, right? So I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments.
You'll never enter again. You'll never get another government job. Certainly nothing involving a clearance.
Well, funny you mentioned that. I was recently told by someone from ODNI that all of my clearances and tickets are good to go.
So you were told by ODNI recently that your clearances are good to go. And then theoretically, there's nothing blocking you from getting another government job, even in the intelligence realm.
ODNI told you that. ODNI means, for our viewers,
The Office of the Director of National Intelligence.
is run by Tulsi Gabbard, and she created something called the DIG.
Well, we'll come back with that. But I mean, is there a way for you to check, independent of what you were told? Are my clearances still good?
Not that I am familiar with. I'm sure there is a way to formally request your records and see when it was and wasn't in access. But in a practical sense, no. The easiest way to find out is to apply for a job and have someone on the inside verify that your tickets are in order.
It's so weird that ODNI would tell you that, because man, I heard the absolute opposite about you from ODNI. It's weird.
So this is also interesting. When Matthew Brown went to do his interview with ODNI, along with other whistleblowers, but he went on his own. Apparently he was one of the first ones to go. They had told him he had all his clearances, right? And he's not entirely sure if that's true, and he's not sure if he can even check that, which is interesting. And it shows my ignorance, because I just imagine there's a website or something you go to check if you have your you would know if your clearances are active or not. So it's kind of unusual. The only way to find out is to reapply and then see if, hey, do I have my clearances or not? Wouldn't that affect what information you can give out? You know what I mean? Why wouldn't the government let people know if their clearances are active or not? That seems like a whole nother rabbit hole of craziness. But, you know, Matthew Brown did lose his job. And as he states in this interview, part of the Doge, the Elon Musk sort of trimming of the fat of, you know, U.S. government agencies. And apparently Matthew Brown lost his job during that. So it wasn't his choice. He didn't leave. He lost his job when that was happening. So again, I'm going to feel bad for anybody losing his job. So it doesn't sound like he left his job to whistleblow. It sounded like he, you know, after losing his job, decided to do a few more things. Now, granted, in this interview, he also states that he was working for the State Department when he was meeting with Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp. So he kind of was already thinking about doing something. So I don't know, right? This is all very interesting. And again, I have complete compassion for Matthew Brown losing his job and finding it tough to take care of his family. I mean, to be honest, if I were him, I'd just go get a regular job. You know, I'm not trying to tell him what to do, but, you know, if you're only making less than $1,000 a month, you know, he runs a Substack and I think he sells some merch online. I mean, go get a job. You know, I've been in that position where I've had to just pick up and go get a job. You know, nothing's above me. I would go work at McDonald's, Home Depot, anything. I've had to do all kinds of things to make money. So maybe it's a mix of that, like go get a job, at least bring in some money, because you can make more just working at Home Depot and then do the whistleblower stuff also. I don't know. But again, it's a tough position. I don't know his family life. I don't know what's going on. Maybe he's not able to do that. So again, you kind of get caught in this purpose you think you have and real life, trying to take care of your family. And yeah, everybody makes that decision individually.
After that hearing in September of 2025, Jeremy and I went and met with some people that shared information that was amazingly candid and seemingly supportive of what we've been doing.
Is it a federal organization?
It's a federal.
Was it an intelligence agency?
It is.
Do they run all the intelligence agencies in America?
They do. They are umbrella organization.
Would it be ODNI?
It is. That's good. It was almost like you were there for this. So they asked us, they told us we're going to get to the bottom of this. We're really digging in. We're authorized by the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, who is interested in this issue, to go out and find credible information, credible sources of information. And they asked us if we would share names of people that we would recommend. Yours was one of them. So can you confirm on the record that you met with those folks?
I did. I met with the DIG. The DIG that was tasked to the UAP portion of the...
Yeah, the DIG, the Director's Initiative, under Tulsi Gabbard, who Tulsi set, she set it up with multiple parts, and one of those parts was the deep dive investigation on a federal level into UAP. That's what you're talking about for our audience.
Absolutely.
Okay, so basically Jeremy in this interview definitely tries to separate Tulsi Gabbard from the rest of ODNI, even though she's leading ODNI. She is leadership, and they basically, you know, insinuate in this interview that it's the soldiers underneath Tulsi that are the bad actors, and specifically in the UAP arm of the ODNI, right? So they started something called DIG, which they're looking for corruption within the government, and one arm of it is looking into UAP stuff, right? Into UAP corruption. And they're basically insinuating that those people are, you know, bad actors. And there's a lot more that, you know, allegedly gets uncovered in this interview. But I will just say that, you know, at the end of the day, it all goes back to leadership. So I don't know how long you can keep blaming the soldiers and not keep the general accountable, right? In this case, Tulsi Gabbard, if she's leading, you know what I mean? Like, you gotta hold leadership accountable.
When you hear that ODNI has started an initiative to get to the bottom of things and a very broad kind of objectives of finding out the truth about UFOs, gathering it all up and doing something with it, are you encouraged? That sounds like, I know how we reacted. Great, good, let's get to it.
But did we? So we acted that way, but was that what we were thinking?
Well, you know what we were thinking. We're suspicious. I am.
But our audience doesn't know what we were thinking. What were we thinking?
I know I would be suspicious of that kind of a setup because we've seen it too many times over a lot of decades of boy, it's time we get to the bottom of this. And then really they all either have ulterior motives or they fizzled. This we heard, we spoke to people face to face, and what they were saying is what we wanted to hear. I just recall that when we got an invitation to go meet with these folks, we were suspicious, and then we sat down and spent several hours going through this. They explained what the objectives were, and we were encouraged. We leave that meeting and going, well, shit, if they're sincere, this would really be a great thing.
If they were,
We are
did you know
suspicious by nature.
Did you notice that we had a choice of meeting in a cafe, meeting in the visitor center, or meeting in a skiff? And I chose for us the visitor center because that was a nice middle ground, which was like, if they were going to fuck with our phones, which we left,
Name redacted.
then that would be interesting, and we would have prepared for that. If we didn't go into a skiff, because then maybe that information we would be told you can't talk about. So we went to the visitor center, and that's different than Matt. Matt went into a skiff, and no one's supposed to tell me what happened in a skiff with you. Correct. Okay, is that fair, George, for me to say? Okay, so now go ahead and tell us what the fuck happened.
Yeah.
All right, so this is where we get into the meat of this. You can already see a name that's redacted in this, and they redact a lot in this interview. So essentially, right after the hearings that Matthew Brown attended, actually in September, the same one that George Knapp testified in, he went to this meeting with ODNI, right? And he kind of went on the suggestion that other people had gone and had a good experience, and so he should go as well, right? So essentially, a lot of people have gone to these meetings behind the scene, and as you'll find out in this interview, Matthew Brown's experience was not very good, according to him. And they're also saying that Matthew was one of the first ones to go, right? And that Jeremy and George were cautiously optimistic about him going. But remember, Matthew was saying that he went on the recommendation of other people to go to this meeting, right? And George and Jeremy kind of found out that this was happening, and also recommended that Matthew go. They gave him his name, right, to go. That's how they knew to call Matthew Brown. So again, Jeremy and George were also approached by the ODNI office here that was looking into UFOs and asked, like, who to bring in. So they start naming some of the whistleblowers, and, that office starts inviting some of these people in. And, Jeremy and George kind of insinuate they're a little cautious about going in and want to set the meeting in a particular place. And, Matthew Brown's going to go in a skiff. And Jeremy brings this up a lot in the interview that, okay, Matthew, you went in a skiff, right? You that stuff should remain private, right? So none of that should get out. Nobody should be telling me about anything that happened in a skiff, right? And Matthew's like, yeah, right. So they're kind of setting the scene here that something's going to be uncovered in this interview.
So the day comes, I go to this location. I take the metro there. I meet the contact
Name redacted.
in a car in the parking lot, and I'm taken to Liberty Crossing, check in like a normal visitor's process to intelligence facility. So, it's like I'm back in school, right?
Did you bring your phone?
No, I didn't bring any technology with me.
Why?
Well, I had learned from others who had gone that people who went to Liberty Crossing and brought their phone with them came out of their meeting and found that their phone had been hacked, the entire content on it duplicated, and that when ODNI security was informed of that, they were told that it wasn't them who had messed with their phone, and that's just very strange. Sorry. So to me, that seems like a very good reason to not bring any electronic devices.
So again, Matthew's whole point to go was that he was going to be offered a, whistleblower protection and be allowed to talk about his whistleblowing, right, and give more details. And what's interesting in this point here is that, Matthew's like, well, I didn't take my phone because I was told by other people that when they took their phone, they got hacked. What? Why would you even go then? Right? This is where it starts to break down for me here. that doesn't make any sense to me, because he also said that he was recommended to go by people. Hey, I recommend you go, but just don't take your phone because they'll hack it. What? I mean, how does that make any sense at all? I guess they don't really explain that in the interview, that contradiction. So I don't really understand by this, right? This is just not adding up for me, that particular point. So he doesn't take his phone.
Yes, we were in a skiff, absolutely. And
Are you legally allowed to say what happened in that skiff?
unclear. I think I'm okay to talk about what I talked about, but not the details of why I said what I said.
Sign anything?
No, so that's the most concerning thing for me. The whole reason of having that meeting never came about. The UAP whistleblower program by ODNI was never offered to me. I was never briefed on it. The only thing I was informed of was that, do I want to become an ICIG UAP whistleblower? Very different thing. And I'm like, no, I see no advantage in that. Based on my friends' experience who have done the same thing, it is a trap. I want
Dylan.
Correct.
So again, the skiff thing comes up, right? Is Matthew allowed to talk about what happened in this skiff? And the skiff is, again, a secured, compartmented information facility. And again, he's never offered the ODNI whistleblower protection that he was offered. He was offered ICIG whistleblower protection, but he's saying he turned that down because of the bad experience that another whistleblower, Dylan Borland, had with them. Okay. So that's interesting. And, I learned some things about skiffs. Just because you're in a skiff, it doesn't mean you can't talk about what happened in there. That's something I learned. It's more that people can't spy in on it. But unless the stuff in it that you're talking about is classified or you don't sign anything, you can talk about what's in it. It doesn't necessarily mean everything you talk about in a skiff is classified. Unless Matthew Brown's saying the stuff they talked about is classified, he can, I guess, talk about it. That's from other people who worked in the government who said this. So there are some different stipulations about skiffs, right? It's not all or nothing, right? Like everything in it is classified or nothing is classified, right? Like it just depends. And it sounds like Matt just doesn't really know, but he's being, cautious. He can give some bullet points, I guess. He can't talk about the details, but he might be able to talk about the details again, unless they're classified, right? But, honestly, I don't know. I'm ignorant, and this is something I can't really, get into. But what he is stating here is the reason he went in, none of that happened, right? He wasn't offered the whistleblower protection he thought he might get.
It is a very telling sign what they did afterwards with my concerns about the actions of Israel and our government and really.
What did they do afterwards?
I think just briefly here can state that they took my concerns about what happened that day and spun it as me having an anti-Jew agenda.
An anti-what?
Jew.
Okay, like you hate the Jewish people?
I hate Jewish people, that I'm an anti-Semite.
Okay.
And that I, have hatred in my heart because of October 7th about Israel and the Jewish people.
When I told him that he was at a Jewish wedding, motherfucker, we had just gone to one, yeah.
No, I was literally at one of my very dear friends' weddings, and it was a Jewish wedding, so,
All right, so that clip may have been a little confusing, and this is where it gets bonkers, because apparently Matthew Brown goes into this interview, leaves the interview, and then while he's in there talking to them about Immaculate Constellation, he also tries to tell them about just some prosaic stuff, nothing to do with UFOs, and how he felt about the October 7th Hamas attacks against Israel, going back a couple of years, the whole, Free Palestine, all of that movement, the battle there with Israel, brings up, I guess, some information he has on it or information he knows, intel, I guess. And when he leaves the interview, he's kind of, they start accusing him of being an anti-Semite, right? Because of that interview. And to be honest, it doesn't stop there. And then you may be wondering, well, how did he even find out about that? Well, let's find out.
Let me just tell you, the brush with which you were painted directly after you were in the skiff, it takes about 3 weeks for them to flip their ID on me. ODNI contacted me and they told me, and just take this on the chin, this is what they said, I want your response. They told me 3 things. They said, Matthew Brown is a racist Jew hater. They said, not they, one individual from ODNI told me that in the skiff, Matthew Brown is a racist Jew hater. I believe those were the exact words. I need to look at, back in my brain, sure, figure it out. The other thing that was told to me was that Matthew Brown admitted to completely making up and fabricating that he saw an Immaculate Constellation document in the files. Right. And that he admitted to me that Matthew Brown made that up. He came up with the name, that he made it up. And the third big lie that was told to me, if I recall, was that I think the third point of the brush that they painted with was that the words counter-espionage and treason, I believe it was treason or a word like that. Yeah. Okay. That's what was said to me by an official in ODNI who told me, gossiping, spilling the tea about what you said in a private Skiff meeting where you were supposed to go in to be protected as a whistleblower.
So apparently one person from the ODNI told Jeremy what happened in this Skiff and basically said that Matthew Brown was an anti-Semite, okay, a racist anti-Semite, and made up the whole Immaculate Constellation documents and I guess, confessed inside of this meeting and was running counterintelligence. Again, they throw around the word treason. I mean, these are massive allegations, right? Coming from a government official, right, about Matthew Brown. Now, there's no confirmation that that's what the ODNI office feels. And again, this is just all word here from these guys. Does Jeremy know for sure that person works for ODNI? Is that the consensus from the rest of the office or just this one person? Right? These are my thoughts of what happened in this interview. But again, those are serious allegations. And Matthew does, go one by one and kind of say that none of that is true.
But let me just say, I'm going to just say it. So I know what the agenda of the UFO arm of the dig was to do underneath Tulsi Gabbard's nose, directed by the CIA indirectly. Sure. But I know for sure, and I know as a fact what they were to do was to discredit you, Dylan, Lou Elizondo, David Grush, huge target, didn't fall for it. Mm-hmm.
Us.
Oh, no, I'm not sure it was to discredit us. It was for us to do the dirty work for them, to mistrust the words told to us by the people I've listed, including now Jay Stratton, Eric Davis, Hal Puthoff. Can I go on?
James Lakatsky,
Dr. James Lakatsky, Dr. Colm Kelleher. It's just, that was the agenda. But let me just one level deeper. The true intent of the UFO dig project under Tulsi, which is not Tulsi's fault and she's wise as fuck, is that they wanted to stand up an operation to influence Congress to put down the bone on UFOs by saying everybody that's ever stood up there, including Commander David Fravor, Senior Chief Wiggins, everybody, that they want them to drop the bone and not And they had an influence campaign set.
That is an intelligence operation being run by the U.S. intelligence community against the U.S. Congress.
That is
I can't
right.
think of anything more illegal.
So that is right. And I can prove it.
So they're essentially saying that this office was set up to, you know, discredit all the whistleblowers that had come out, right? And, you know, I don't know, right? Is that true? Again, there's no evidence provided in this interview at all. But Jeremy is saying that he can prove all of this and that he has, you know, the proof, I guess, essentially. But those are also serious allegations against the ODNI, right? That's definitely illegal, what they're talking about. Is it true? I don't know, right? Are they going to go through the proper authorities? I guess if you think the proper authorities are corrupt, what do you do, right? And let me be clear earlier, you know, when Jeremy is saying that Matthew was, you know, had been told that, or when Jeremy had been told about Matthew that he was an anti-Semite, it turns out Matthew Brown is Jewish. And when he was told, he was actually at a Jewish wedding. So I don't believe Matthew Brown to be a racist at all. That's such a crazy allegation, you know, just because he had some comments to say about Israel. So again, but there's no evidence provided for any of this. So they're just telling a story, and, you know, I just have to give them the benefit of the doubt that that information is true.
So here's the next thing, that you completely made up the Immaculate Constellation original briefing, you call it, that you saw that it was never there. And in fact, when Matt Brown found out that we have a perfect digital memory of what survives when on servers, that Matt like deflated. Is that what happened, Matt?
No,
Okay.
not at all.
What did happen?
So I was asked specifically to walk through step by step my discovery of the Immaculate Constellation briefing, which occurred when I was a contractor for OSD policy. And I did so just like I recited on Weaponized, because it's a boring story at this point. And so I will just say it in 3 sentences. I was doing volunteer duty to clean a top secret SCI share drive. And by clean means to organize the files that through the course of business just get left and scattered everywhere. The 2018 Shriver Wargame file stood out in no way. I just opened it to figure out where it should be categorized. And that file is the Immaculate Constellation briefing document. And then, I described the process of reporting or attempting to report it just like I laid out on the show. You can go watch the
Watch the first episode of Weaponized.
Yeah, so I mean, nothing changed in that room at all, except that from them, they said, okay, that makes sense. And then to you, they're saying that I made it up and that I am cringing when they're talking about a digital record.
Deflating. So did you make up that you saw the
Not at all.
Right.
No,
so you
not at
saw
all.
the report.
It is a briefing. It is a briefing.
Sorry, my words. You saw the briefing. Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Good. It's on the record now.
Okay, so again, this part was also crazy that, you know, allegedly Matthew Brown just made up the Immaculate Constellation. And there's also a part where, you know, Jeremy is told that when they told Matthew Brown, hey, we have kind of, you know, a blueprint of the, you know, the computers, we can see what's been shown and what hasn't, to basically implying like, we know you're lying, right? Think of like security camera footage for the computer, essentially. Like, we know you're lying. There is no Immaculate Constellation. And that Matthew Brown kind of like deflated, like, oh man, they caught me, you know, sort of thing. But Matthew Brown just basically is like, no, I didn't make it up. And then he lays out how he came across it and the report he tried to file about it. And again, this is all covered in the first interview that Matthew Brown did. And I did a great sort of roundup of that interview. I'll put a link in the description if you want to go check it out. Again, that came out last year if you want to know more about his initial story when he came out about Immaculate Constellation. And he goes into a lot of detail of what was in the file. So that would be a lot to make up, if I'm being honest. So, but again, I don't know if these allegations are true or not, right? We're basically just taking Jeremy's word that this stuff happened. And Matthew Brown is then defending himself against allegations that we just have no evidence of, one way or the other. And I get it. I guess I don't know how we see that stuff, right? To be honest with you. But, you know, nonetheless, an interesting and explosive allegation against Matthew Brown if he did just make this up.
What was the third thing that they told me that we're going to talk, that you were running a counterintelligence operation? It was basically espionage from the American government. Why would they tell me that and tell me the truth?
Yeah, so that comes from the very end of our conversation. We're getting up to leave the room. Cutting it short, actually. I was told it'd be a 4 to 6 hour day. We're there less than that. Yeah, so I get up from the room and I say, you know, I don't know why I'm telling you this, but that Immaculate Constellation report, you know, that was an op. That was an operation. And that operation is why I have so much confidence that what I wrote down is true, because I vetted that information against, you know, people who would know. And, you know, maybe next time when we're talking, we can talk about, you know, some of the people who I found out were lying by coordinating my report.
Who was lying? Say their names or don't.
I don't want to say that here.
Okay.
Yeah. There also won't be names that people would know.
Interesting. Okay, so because the world's going to go crazy, who was he about to say? There'd be names that people wouldn't know.
Correct.
Okay, so good, don't tell me. Go.
So, you know, a spicy thing to say, but it's, you know, it's a key part and it's part of the process.
So that's interesting. Another part of this interview where we just don't get any real information. All the names are redacted. Matthew Brown never says any names. And I get it. They even show a picture and then blur it out. So I don't even know why they hold it up to the camera. But, you know, again, it's just one of those things where we're left to just take it in. Like, we just watch it. It's just like a story unfolding. It's like, it's not meant to be believed or not to be believed. It's just data that's there. Because for me, it's hard to go one way or the other. I don't know what happened, right? We're only hearing one side of the story. And I'm not implying that, you know, Matthew Brown is lying by no means. I'm just saying I've learned a lot in this community that you got to see evidence. And that's why at the end of the day, evidence is the best thing we can have, because then we're not left to rely on, do we believe people or not believe people, right? Because sometimes people try to pull at our heartstrings to get support, when I can do both. I can support you, you know, with compassion, but also be critical and skeptical of your fantastical claims, right? And again, let's say what Matthew Brown saw was real. Doesn't imply aliens or anything. Like, there's just so many levels to this. It's hard to tell what's going on, to be honest with you. And it's kind of a lot, right? Like, you know, we get into this to kind of like, are we alone on this planet? And then we're, as average citizens, supposed to understand the dynamics of the US government and secrecy and cloak and dagger and all this stuff behind the scenes of clearances and skiffs and, you know, all these terms that get thrown out that sound important and sound serious, and the CIA and this stuff, you know, like, what, you know, are there reptilians or not on Earth? Like, you know, it's just a lot of stuff that gets complicated, right? It gets very political within the UFO community, and we try to keep politics out of the UFO community, but we're also imploring political leaders to help us uncover, quote, the truth that the US government may be hiding UFOs and aliens. And, you know, and Matthew Brown's whole story is that he uncovered this big AI system that collects all the data through all the agencies about UAP, right? Which is just unidentified stuff, right? Doesn't equal aliens, right? And then Matthew Brown does like to insert his own personal beliefs. So then you start wondering, did you get those personal beliefs just from what? Like, you know what I mean? It's the lines get blurred. This is just a lot to take in. I think it's a decision for everyone to decide for themselves how they want to approach this and the things they want to support. Matthew Brown does say in this interview, like, this isn't entertainment. I disagree, right? I think that's a personal choice. It's entertainment if you want it to be. And if you don't, then you don't. But I don't want anybody to decide for me. I treat this as entertainment. And if that upsets people, do what you want, right? If you want to take it more seriously, do what you want, right? Vetted is for entertainment purposes only. Again, I didn't sign up for some cloak and dagger, put my life on the line movement here. You know what I mean? If people want to do that, go for it. That's not what I signed up for. And I think a lot of people kind of have one foot in the pool with this, right? They live their lives, they take care of their families, and then if something's happening, they kind of pay attention, right? So, I don't know. Again, it's just a huge iceberg to go through.
The point is it's systematic and it's ongoing to this day. We have identified the main players and found that they are active duty service members or reserve service members with active clearances, doing this on their work time from work computers.
That's right.
And that this network of shit talkers is directly traced back to legacy program security, and that legacy program security is actively running disinformation operations and psychological operations against UAP whistleblowers, their friends, and their family. Worse than that, they are taking human intelligence methods and applying them to us in order to disrupt our lives and basically to drive us to either commit suicide or become so ostracized from our friends and family that we are no longer a threat. Specifically, they are sending Office of Special Investigations agents to people's families to break apart their families, to break apart marriages, to this day, to pull children away from their parents. And these are not the parents, these are not parents who are whistleblowers. They are people who have helped us. It's completely unacceptable. I took some of that evidence there and brought it up. And in fact, I took more than just screenshots and posts and information about low-level players. We found one of the key players in the legacy security architecture lately or currently at Northrop Grumman. And his name is...
Name redacted.
Show us a photo of that.
I have it right here.
I know you do. Before we look at this photo, not only that, you could prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt in the court of law. And if anything were to happen to you or anybody, then it'll all be put out anyway.
Yes. And it's not just me.
Yes.
You know, in my last interview, I said that it's been a long, hard road to find allies. I have them now, and I do. And we are done taking punches and not punching back.
Name redacted.
Is responsible.
Okay, so has been responsible for a lot of what you're talking about current day.
Current day as it relates to the UAP problem, he is a nexus point for legacy security. He's part of the dirty tricks department. People bring names that need to be handled to this individual. This person looks at those names, matches it to the capabilities to go achieve XYZ objectives, and then the result is an ecosystem flooded with disinformation and psychological operations and targeted attacks against whistleblowers and their allies.
How do you know?
So I cannot reveal everything about this because I am communicating it for others.
And what is his current role in government, if any?
No role in government, but in the military industrial complex. He is most recently at Northrop Grumman. And the little title he has here that people might find interesting is Deputy SAPCO for DARPA.
So this is another interesting part of the interview where, again, they show this picture, okay, and they blur it out and redact the name and everything, but then they give the title of the person and where he's at, and people have been naming that person online. So it felt very set up, if I'm being honest, like, okay, Jeremy and George are going to put out this interview, but then someone else is going to name the guy. Right? Why didn't they just name him in this episode? I don't know. Seemed a little strange to me, if I'm being honest. But what Matthew Brown is suggesting is that there's some counterintelligence psychological operation in the UFO community from people online. Okay, as he put it, shit talkers who are online, you know, causing problems for whistleblowers. And he went further to say that people from the office are going to like friends of whistleblowers and their families and trying to separate people or drive people to, you know, take their own life. These are serious allegations. Again, no evidence is provided. They say they have the evidence, but then they don't name any names or bring anything out. So are they doing something behind the scenes about this? I don't know. And they're saying the guy that the redacted picture that they showed, that's the guy behind it. He's sort of leading it all from the legacy UFO program. I don't know if it's real, a delusion, a mix. And then people, you know what happens online when this interview came out, people start getting accused. You had some people with bigger followings on Twitter start just naming people in the UFO community. Yeah, he's probably one of them. And then people attacking that person. So without any evidence, right? They activate all these people. People came after me, right? People started saying some disgusting things about me and my deceased dog, right? Rocket, who I've talked about on here. Like, they even went after my family, right? Like, again, just because I ask questions about things, like, because Matthew Brown doesn't name any names or give any evidence, people get activated by this. People who just, in my opinion, take it too seriously. Like, you can take it seriously, it can mean something to you, but to then just be activated to do just horrendous things while you're saying that people are doing horrendous things. Does that make sense? Right? They're saying that people are trying to drive people to suicide, threaten, harass these whistleblowers. So the people that get mad at that go and attack and harass other people with no evidence that they're claiming these people are working for the government. That's what people think. I'm working for the government to, shit talk whistleblower. I mean, like, I make YouTube videos. Okay. I'm a YouTuber. Like, it's, again, no evidence is provided for any of the accusations that are thrown out against people. And that's kind of the problem, right? Nobody wants to talk about that. If you ask questions, you're working for the government, psychological warfare, right? They keep it ambiguous so that everyone can fit under the umbrella. You don't ever hear any names because then everyone is a candidate. Does that make sense? If you don't name any names, then it can be, well, it could be this guy, could be that guy, could be this, could be that, right? And once the accusation is thrown out, again, there's this weird arm of people within the UFO community that are actually the ones going and harassing and threatening people. You know, it's very strange, to be honest with you. I don't know what's going on, but I think, in my opinion, the harassment and threatening needs to stop on all sides. Whether you're a skeptic, believer, whistleblower, that it should stop everywhere. If you don't like a whistleblower, right, you don't need to threaten or harass their families, for Christ's sake. Just, go be skeptical of the claims, push back, ask questions. There's nothing wrong with that, right? And if you're not happy with somebody in the community, it's okay to be skeptical of them, but to then harass, threaten, again, I think it's happening all across the board, to be honest with you. But again, it's another instance where ambiguity is this dark shadow that overwhelms everything and just leaves us more in the dark, right? The ambiguity strikes again.
There is no organized help for UAP whistleblowers, whether that be from Congress or from private initiatives. We are, quite frankly, being picked off to be either exploited for financial or technical gain, or to be removed from being agents of influence for the cause of disclosure.
So are you doing this for personal gain, Matt? Because that's what everybody on the interweb is going to say. Are you doing this for personal gain? Tell me.
No.
Why?
Because this is our home, and if we do not defend it, who will?
We live here.
Exactly.
Planet Earth or America?
America. I'm not sure Earth is our home anymore.
I don't know how I feel about these comments, if I'm being honest. Like, I get it, but that's an opinion. That's speculation, what Matthew Brown is saying, right? And again, Matthew Brown has taken it upon himself to have this higher calling, this higher purpose. We need to take care of our home, and, who else is going to do it if it's not me? And it's one of those things where, okay, if you're going to make that decision, then you kind of got to take what comes with it, right? or I don't know. It's just a tough thing. It's like, I think he really just wants to be recognized for the sacrifices in his mind he's making for America, humanity, right? I don't know. It's complicated. It's nuanced. I'm not trying to be mean. But I just think you can't have it both ways. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just don't get behind this higher calling thing, to be honest with you, because I've seen so many people be activated in a detrimental way, right? I remember talking to this one woman who was a lawyer a long time ago with Vetted, and I got on the phone with her. She wanted to talk to me. I said, all right, I'll talk to you. I won't say who she is. Here I am not naming a name. Because it's not important. She didn't reveal any secrets or anything, but she was like telling me, Patrick, I'm willing to die for this and this movement and all that. I was like, whoa, lady, you're talking to the wrong guy. I do not want to die for this. Like, I don't know what you're thinking, right? And that's what happens behind the scenes. They make it seem like it's life or death without ever seeing any evidence of aliens or UFOs. I don't know about you, but that's why I'm here. Aliens, UFOs, right? Alien spaceships, not all this other nonsense. The movement, disclosure, right? It's like this weird, it's just become this other thing that has nothing to do with non-human intelligence, right? And again, I just think people get activated in a unhealthy way, in my opinion, and it starts to affect your real life. In my opinion, your family should always come first, and you take care of them, because if we sacrifice our humanity to further expand our humanity, that makes no sense to me at all. I don't get that. I don't get why we would say on one hand, well, if we get disclosure and everyone finds out about NHI, then we'll be better off. We'll come together as a human race. Meanwhile, we're going to treat each other like crap to get there. Step all over each other and, right, make these grandiose claims and cult-like stuff. It's very cult-like and delusional, and it just worries me. Some people worry me in this community. Again, I want to have compassion for people. You know, it's a tough thing. Again, it's very nuanced. You know, that's why I took a few days to make this video. I had a lot to think about, right? I didn't want to come in hot. But at the same time, we still have to ask questions, right? We can't be asked to, you know, we can't have our heartstrings pulled on so we don't ask questions, right? So we don't push in and ask for evidence, right? And if I'm being honest, if you're a whistleblower and you come out and talk about how hard your life is as a whistleblower, how does that encourage anyone else to come out, right? Aren't people going to see and be like, well, I'm not going forward. I mean, just look what happens. What's the point, right? So, and if you really believe in disclosure, wouldn't you want more whistleblowers to come out? Because then that would help your story. And that would help disclosure, right? That'd be the whole point. You'd want more whistleblowers to come. You wouldn't want it to be like, you're never going to make it. So, you know what I mean? Then you're just kind of left alone. So it's a double-edged sword. I don't know. It's a tough thing. It's a tough call. But at the same time, I get wanting to let people know, hey, this is hard for me. And Matthew Brown is essentially asking for help financially. And he started a nonprofit with Dylan Borland to, you know, get things going. So I'm assuming, you know, he can start making a living from trying to bring us disclosure, which at the end of the day, no problem. Look, people can do whatever they want to try to earn a living. And if people want to support that, that's up to them. We're all free individuals who can support who and whatever we want. And maybe that'll work. Maybe that'll be the way to go, right? So look, at the end of the day, again, I wish Matthew Brown the best and his family. I wish all the whistleblowers the best in their family. I don't want to see anybody threatened or harassed or anything like that. But if you're going to come out with fantastical claims and extraordinary claims, then expect extraordinary questions and a little pushback and a little skepticism, because if you're going to claim it's the greatest discovery in the history of mankind and put it up on a pedestal and give it the purpose that you give it as being so important, then we're going to have important questions to make sure we're going right in the right direction and that we're getting the right information. So again, double-edged sword. But I really wish the ambiguity would go away, right? So let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm sure they're going to be explosive. I don't know. It's a lot to think about. But, great job to George and Jeremy for having these kind of conversations. At the end of the day, it is data. It's easy to criticize, like I'm doing this whole video. Easier said than done when I'm not the one out there doing the work, right? I'm sure if I was doing interviews like this, I'd also be getting criticized. Like, it comes with the territory, and I get it. But I just, want to make sure that I am saying I do respect what they're doing at the end of the day. But of course, I have questions. The channel's called Vetted. That's kind of what we do here. So I mean no disrespect, and I do support the cause, but I am going to ask questions. So anyway, we'll see you guys on the next one. Remember, Vettas, every day's a gift, y'all. Peace.
Hey, Pat. This is Chris from Dallas. I hope you're doing good today, man. Listen, I just watched your thing about Travis Walton. Great work once again, but I don't know, Pat. I mean, I don't understand something. If Steve Pierce was there and he had to live with the heart what he witnessed in the woods, it haunted him all the days of his life and every aspect of his life, why did they all lie about it then? What did he see that haunted him? If he was lying, or if they all were lying. And then he says that John Gillette died thinking this was all real. I'm kind of lost here, Pat. I mean, are they not all lying about it or something? Were they not really there? I don't know. Maybe it's me, but I seem to be lost here. What did he see, Mr. Pierce, that was so devastating to him? I don't get it, man. And then John, what did he see thinking it was real to his deathbed? Are they not all lying about this? I don't know, man. Maybe it's a disconnect for me, bud, but I'm just, I'm not understanding this, I guess. Anyway, man, great work, Pat. We're all watching you. We believe in you and all that good stuff. And I hope you have a good night. And God bless, bud, okay? And if you wanted to do another follow-up on this, hey, that'll be great too, right? I'll see you, man. Bye.